I'm Benny Meng from the Wing Chun Museum. I'm here to do a videotape on the most popular Wing Chun in the 20th century, which is known as the Yip Man system. Wing Chun is a Southern shouting system, which started more than 3 centuries ago. The most well-known today, known as the Yip Man system, really came about during the 50s. It's made known by Grandmaster Yip Man, along with his many great students, including Bruce Lee, which transferred the art into international status.
Sifu Benny Meng began his Wing Chun Kung Fu training in Hong Kong in 1982 under the movie star Sifu Li Hoi Sang, a student of Xiu Wan. Xiu Wan had completed training in the Wing Chun system through Shan Yu Min in China prior to beginning his training with Yip Man. Sifu Benny Meng's training under Li Hoi Sang was interrupted after 2 years of intense study by his return to the United States. He resumed his training under Sifu Mo Yat in New York City in 1985. He completed his first trip through the entire system in 1986 and officially started training Wing Chun in 1987. In 1994, Sifu Benny Meng began another journey through the system with Sifu Mo Yat. The goal of both the teacher and student was to examine the details and deeper aspect of the art form in totality. With Mo Yat's blessing, Sifu Benny Meng began another journey through the system in 1995 via extensive private lessons with his Kung Fu uncle, Yip Ching. Study was completed in November of 1997. In 1998, Sifu Benny Meng was certified as a senior instructor by the Wing Chun Athletic Association of the Yip Man lineage in Hong Kong. The above training gave Sifu Benny Meng a comprehensive understanding of the system passed on by Yip Man. To broaden his knowledge of the original system, Sifu Benny Meng sought further training from lineage separate from Yip Man. Sifu Meng had the privilege of studying under Sifu Garrett Ji of the Hong Fai Yi Wing Chun lineage. Sifu Benny Meng's passion for Wing Chun research has been fueled at an ever-accelerating rate by his position as curator of the Wing Chun Museum. Literally hundreds of books and tapes on Wing Chun history, teaching methods, applications, and interpretations have flowed into the museum. Each is viewed, read, and analyzed by Sifu Benny Meng and the Wing Chun Museum Committee for inclusion in the museum and incorporation into the museum's curriculum. In October of 2001, Sifu Benny Meng was featured on the cover of TC Media's premier magazine, Kung Fu Qigong. As a frequent contributor to the magazine, Sifu Benny Meng's well-researched articles aroused even more interest in the art of Wing Chun. This video was produced as a joint venture between Sifu Benny Meng, the Wing Chun Museum, and TC Media to further shed light on this authentic fighting art.
What you just saw is the zam, the biu, gan zam sao, and of course the quan sao. This is all fundamental hand techniques of the popular Wing Chun system. Today we learn empty hand, unarmed hand-to-hand combat first. But actually in the past, you learn weapons first. If you don't learn weapon, let's say 500 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago, or even longer, you simply won't survive if you don't know how to handle weapons first. Just like today's real fighting belongs into the police and military. The first thing they do is learn how to shoot. And when they're not able to use their weapon, that means there's something went wrong. Okay, so today's martial art community, of course, we study hand-to-hand combat first. But in the past, this is not necessarily always the sequence. They learn hand-to-hand as well as weapons first. So with that said, I'd like to introduce my Bat Zam Do series of the popular Hong Kong Wing Chun system. Wing Chun ultimately comes from Southern Shaolin. Okay? In Southern Shaolin, the pole and knife is quite common. Most of the Southern Shaolin arts, okay, they call the short knife is Wu Di Song Do, or double butterfly knife. Okay? When it comes to the Wing Chun dealing with the Hong Kong version, okay, we call it Bat Zam Do, 8 cutting knife. Now why do we call it 8 cutting knife? Primarily it's dealing with realistic combat. You have to be able to face, turn, and deal with all different directions. By the time you learn all 8 sections, you learn how to cut with different angles in all 8 different directions. First 4 sections is dealing with short weapon versus long weapons. Long weapon in the past is like a long pole or a spear. Okay? Short weapon is like a broadsword or a straight sword. When it comes to the knife, it's actually called a personal weapon because you can kind of short enough and small enough you can hide it. So Bat Zam Do is actually a personal weapon. Then section 5, 6, and 7, this is primarily the double knife versus short weapon. Let's say a broadsword or a shorter stick. And then the last part is dealing with multiple opponents. It gives you a sense of being able to disarm, disable the attackers without hurting them. There's a technique, we flip the knife in the sense that creates another option. In combat, if I call it 0 to 10, 10 is to kill somebody, 0 is to turn something into nothing. So ability to neutralize the attack, that's 0. So at the end of the day, this is a Shaolin weapon that comes from a Shaolin temple, which is Buddhist. The highest level is be able to stop an opponent's attacker with weapons without harming them. So we have this tail end of the section of the form where we do flip the knife, where it turns the knife into a non-lethal weapons as an option. So with that said, I would like to introduce my participants of this Bat Zam Do series. First, I want to introduce my disciple, Sifu Brad Ryan. Okay, he's a master level instructor in Houston, Texas. He is the Wing Chun Athletic Association senior certification holder in the Hong Kong system. Second, we have Sifu Saji. He runs a Chicago school. He's also an international competitor, a world-class competitor. And last, we have Julian. He is a Houston student from Sifu Brad Ryan School. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are 8 sections. First 4 sections is primarily dealing with the long weapons, okay? And then next 3 dealing with short weapons, and then dealing with multiple opponents. Now, Bat Zam Do is considered an advanced stage of training, but this is due to training methodology of today and dealing with today's environment. Nobody is really have to fight with cold weapons like a knife and stick. Okay, so they mostly do martial art for self-defense as well as recreation. So most of them start with the empty hand training. So this is one of the key concepts you have to understand. Most of the hand-to-hand combat theories is actually coming from weapon training of the past. So it makes sense that they learn weapons and then hand-to-hand. So you have went through my student Tongbiuji and the wooden pole as well as the dummy. So now it's a knife. So we created a knife set that is actually based on the empty hand. So you can see the relationship that the hand and the knife is the same. Okay, so as you know, the Wing Chun is based on concept. Some people ask me, how come Wing Chun only got 2 weapons? Big long pole and 2 short knife. But if you think about it as a concept, we cover from long weapons all the way to short weapons, from single weapons all the way to double weapons. So basically we cover the full spectrum, okay? And also the long pole, why it's so long is because it's actually single-headed, coming from the battlefield of the spear in the past. So in essence, yes, we use 2 weapons, but actually it covers the concept of long weapon to short weapons, from single to double, okay? So hopefully that you can relate to some of those backgrounds. If there's a certain teacher in school that teach you the weapon way at the end, or some teacher teach you way at the beginning, this is not right or wrong. It's based on the teacher's really methodology, okay? So we will show you the empty hand version of the Batzamdo with the section 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll show you the Batzamdo set of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to finish with the application so you understand the movements. Master Ryan here is going to demonstrate the section 1, which is based on the Chi Do, primarily dealing with an incoming weapon that is thrusting at you, like a straight jab or like a spear. This is an empty hand version of it. Section 2 of the Batzamdo started out with the Lan Do as well as the Biu Do. Okay? Now, little details, as you know that Wing Chun system is based on gate theories. We have right gate, left gate, so every time we practice Do, we want to be symmetrical. So we want to be even. So that's why we always start with the left side and then we repeat the same side on the right. Okay, now we're moving into section 3. It's dealing with the Ganzamdo. Okay, Ganzamdo is a movement that covers both the middle gate and the upper gate. Okay, so most people think it's like a defensive hand. Actually, if you pay attention to my application early on, okay, this is for sure is to cover your gates, but it's also play an offensive role of setting up. If I strike low, he's going to fall for this and quickly chop high. If I chop high, he's going to fall for this one, then I quickly strike low. So this is part of the Ganzam concept. Keep in mind that the hand-in-hand series here is exactly coming from the knife set. Okay, so later on you can see the movements are identical. Now we're moving to section 4. It's dealing with the Quan Sao and then Labda. Okay, Labda, Quan Sao, okay, Gan Zam Sao, Biu Sao, Zam Sao. All this is fundamentals. Okay, so as you watch the series, you have to understand actually with the understanding of weapons, hand-in-hand training are enhanced. Okay, this is some of the subject we will be talking about later. So earlier I mentioned about weapon will enhance your hand-to-hand combat because ultimately, you know, if weapon is the chicken, then the hand-to-hand combat is the egg. Okay, so most of our actual fighting experience come from thousands of years of experience with weapon fighting, not really hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-hand combat is almost like the last step. Okay, so therefore, weapons is empty hands force multiplier. Okay, it will definitely increase your power. Your lethal aspect of the fight is definitely come from weapons. Second, it's an extension of your limb. it quickly creates a distance that will change the game for hand-to-hand combat. Okay, so therefore you don't really have a lot of margin of error. Okay, so split second, 1-2 move is finished. Okay, so therefore strategy and tactics very important. Okay, so I'm going to mention some of the strategy of the Bazamdo dealing with the fighting. Now, if this is true for weapon fighting, that means the strategy is also true for hand-to-hand combat. Okay, one of the setup that we do is called 装手 or 摆种. 摆种 is simply means setting up or position yourself. Now, in weapon fighting, we position ourselves as a setup. For example, if we were doing hand-to-hand combat, my hands are already in the center. So if Sifu Saji comes directly, that is already covered. I got two weapons here. Okay? This engage and this slice or basically cut and stab. Okay, so because I'm already set up this space, and if dealing with inexperienced people, they will come right into the trap of what we call long-short position. This is long, this is short, or this is what we call close range, far range. Okay, in the empty hand, we call this the gate theories. So what happens if you watch, if he comes in, if he contacts my inner gate, where is my front hand? He basically is already walking into the kill zone. So you have to understand how to set up. Right? Some people, well, you know, both hands out or both hands in, or sometimes you kind of do it based on whatever you feel like. Or in combat, it's not doing what you feel like. You gotta do what you're supposed to be doing. So in this case, having definitely understanding of front and back makes a big difference. Now going back to the setup, if I already occupy the center, most people, they will not come through here. So he will go out to the outside door. This will create a trap. So he will have to attack around. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. Because I already guarded here. Okay? So if I set up correctly, he comes straight in. Boom, it's the intercept. The weapon is trapped, and the lethal cutting, stabbing is already done. Okay? Simultaneously. If you recognize that this area is not open, then it's going to swing around, okay? Then this is where we expect that because my hands are already guarding the inside, the center. So from here, okay, we quickly change. Okay, so all I have to do is expecting his attack coming from it. So this is an example of what we call setting up. If I set up in a way that where my outside is guarded, where my center is open, then this gives him the illusion of say, hey, there's somewhere it's open. So if this is open, so you come, change. Okay? It's already set up. Okay? So this is part of a Zhongsao concept. We explain about this in empty hand. So you can see this is a little bit more detailed. So setting up is critical. Because if I fight with him with weapon and weapon, 1 or 2 blows is finished. So there's not like a sport where we have to be even or we have like few exchanges. So you only have 1 or 2 beats or 2 exchanges, then it's done. So how do I deal with that in real life? You already have to set up for what we call a superior position. Either inside or outside, you have to kind of understand. The second progression is what we call Jeet. Okay, this is a famous word made famous by Bruce Lee, Jeet Kune Do. It means to intercept. Okay, if you don't know how to set up, then you basically have to rely on your speed and attributes. Okay, for example, we're dealing with real weapons. Okay, you really cannot do too many exchanges. But in Hollywood, this is what the audience want to see. They have exchanged maybe 10 moves before somebody goes down. This is unrealistic. Okay? As I come forward, if, for example, he carry a knife, I carry a side, which is both lethal weapons. Go 1, then he will come, I got time to do it. Then, okay, so, you know, if you analyze the situation, okay, if I come and now stop right here. Now, I can capture his weapon or he can do something, but this hand versus his rear hand, we have the same distance. So if he have time to cut me, I would have time to block this. And then based on the next move, I would have time to come to the next movement, and he would have time to cut my hands. So this is kind of like a Hollywood choreograph type of fight. I mean, we don't have like just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finish like that, okay? So this is in the sense of not realistic. So that's why the strategy here you have to understand, based on the proper setup, it gives you a split second of intercept. So rather than engaging with the front hand, now he's going to set up a trap. Earlier I said he's going to set up a trap. Okay? His upper gate or his center is open. So I'm going to go for that. So as I come in, you see this is only one sound made. Once I come close to him, his backhand is a guarding hand and the front hand becomes the attacking hand. This happened at the same time. And for my mind, I'm focusing on going for the open. Okay, so this is actually the results of his proper setup, which give him the intercept. Okay, so this is crucial here. Now if he does make a mistake using his front hand, now he gave that setup position away. Because right now, we have the same chance. Maybe I come back and do something and I'm quicker. Okay, so from proper setup to intercept, it has to be applied when it comes to real weapons. Now that you saw the first 4 sections with the empty hand variation of the Batamdo, now we're going to move into the actual section 1 through 4 of the weapon. So quickly you're going to see section 1 is going to be dealing with the Chito or Zamdo. Then section 2 is the Budo. Then it's Ganzamdo. Then it's Kwando. Okay? So section 1. So we have covered section 1 through 4 of the Hong Kong version of the Wing Chun, dealing with the Bat Zam Do. On the next Bat Zam Do series, we finished the whole complete set, as well as cover more additional strategy and tactics that is crucial for real weapon fighting. So with that, from the Wing Chun Museum. Brief introduction of the knife. Okay, this is variation of Bat Zam Do. You have practice sword, different material. This is actually plastic. This is actually stainless steel. It's really sharp. It's real. Okay, you got different shape, different materials, and then how about the size? Okay, remember this is personal weapon. Okay, in the past you custom fit the knife. For example, if you do flip the knife over, okay. What I've been, it's not supposed to cut you. Okay? The blade is supposed to be fit inside of your forearm length. Okay? So therefore, if you practice learning the knife, I suggest you get a practice knife. Here, I highly recommend a knife by Tiger Claw. Come with a nice case. Okay? It's nice weighted. Then eventually, you want to get a custom fit knife. I'd just like to give you a preview on what is the next DVD coming up for the Bat Zam Do, the 8 sections knife of the Hong Kong system. What you've seen on the first one is primarily showing you the forms, the training methods, and some of the key concepts. Okay, so preview, I want to use section 1 to kind of give you the introduction. Okay, what you just saw earlier was just a demonstration of section 1. Okay, so Bat Zam Do means 8 slash or cut knife. Okay, it has 8 sections. Okay, first 4 sections is dealing with short weapons. Now, in realms of old days, the short weapon would be a weapon like this. This is like the broadsword or straight sword. Okay, and then the next 3 sections is dealing with long weapon, like a long pole or a 6.5 part pole, as well as spear. And then the last section dealing with non-lethal way of using weapons. Okay, so you got 8 sections. So section 1 is dealing with long weapons, primarily is coming from straight type of attack, like a spear. Okay? So when we talk about long weapons, a typical weapon would be a spear. And if you look at spear, how would you use it? You wouldn't swing with it. And you would stab or thrust. Okay? So section 1 dealing with attack going straight at you. Section 2 dealing with attack coming around you, like a swing. This is when it comes to empty hand, it's like this, right? Section 1, you know how to deal with a straight attack. Section 2, the curve. Okay. So we're going to go into detail on section 1. Then we're going to give you the concepts a little bit on the weapons. I want to quickly introduce my assistant from the Wing Chun Museum here in Dayton, Ohio. It's Sifu Aaron McKinnon. He is actually one of the main Sifus at the museum. Okay. Hopefully that you enjoyed this first series on the Bat Zam Do. We'll show you the empty hand version of it, so it's give you more different training methodology, the format, concept, tactics, and applications. So part 2 of this Bat Zam Do series will be primarily focused on tactics and applications. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of the fundamental concepts, okay? Most of the time you've been exposed to weapon fighting Unfortunately, it's like from entertainment movies. Okay, in movie you want action motions, fancy movements. Right? For example, if I'm being attacked with a short weapon, okay, this is ancient days. This is a very short weapon. Today is a broadsword. Okay, what you see, the pole and the spear, those are long weapons. Now, how about on a batando? This is actually it's a personal weapon. You can actually hide it in your long sleeve or behind you, or something that you carry personally with pretty much a good concealment. Okay? So, for example, okay, if he comes in with a broadsword, this seems pretty much a parry, right? And then I go cut him, but then he's about to move. Right, then he's gonna come in again, then I parry, and then I cross, and he's gonna block it. Right, and then he's gonna maybe come at me. And then I block, and then I come and he blocks. So we do this all day long. So this is called choreographed fighting. Okay? Now, the problem is in reality, in dealing with long weapons, short weapons or personal weapons, one of the first things you have to understand is the placements of the weapons. First of all, if he cuts me, even though I defend, but now watch how far I have to travel to come. If you really know his broadsword, now all you have to do is just continue to cut. So basically, you're just walking his weapons. If you don't know which distance, which hands you use, okay? But for action, this is good because it goes 1 and 2. Okay, now I'm going to reverse flow. I'm going to attack with traditional broadsword, short weapon against patando. In the movies, if I come here and he enters that looks good and he's going to cut me, maybe I retreat and parry again, then I cut and then he blocks again, and then he cuts. Right? We're just going back and forth like that. Okay? But in reality, when you carry a weapon, right, probably 1 or 2 moves that determines the fight, right? Because in actuality, if he's not sure what's going on, he's going to parry me with the front hand. And then he's going to come in with the back hand. That's called a slice. Basically, he's just walking to my long weapon. Okay? Now, if I want to kill him, he blocks and he comes. Okay? Basically, he's going to walk into what we call the direction of my attack. Okay? So, in weapon fighting, inside is what we call the live side. Because if he comes this direction, I don't really need to maneuver my body to cut him in all. As a matter of fact, those 8 directions. Okay? So, but if I come on this side, he moves to my left side. Now, most of my cutting angle is gone. I have to re-maneuver and cut this way. Okay, so that's why you have to understand the front hand. Okay, in old days, is not the shield. Right, the front hand is the weapon, the back hand is the shield. That's the key, okay? So in other words, if he comes, I use my shield and my sword's in the back, this takes time. All you have to do is just cut and get it. So in other words, even if you hold the weapon, you gotta know this is the shield, this is the weapon, this is, okay? Because if he comes, this is the shield. This is where my weapon's now. I can maneuver and cut him without having a second move. Okay? So shield, weapon. Shield, weapon. Okay? So rather than you having the shield in the front and then the weapon in the back. You see where the line is? So this is kind of the basic understanding. But in the Patando training, this reality use of weapon is not really being taught. Right? So when you hold the zong sound, or in this case, it's a knife, right? This is the primary weapon of attack. This is primary defensive knife. Okay? Now, what you're just seeing is basically the open move, okay? What is going on is that I allow him to come into my space, I parry, but then allow him to run into my front hand knife. In this case, I'm going to cut his fingers off first and then go for the kick. So this is the setup. Okay? So incorrect way is where you block with the front knife and then you try to go from there. So right now, if I let go of this, he's hitting me, I'm cutting him, he's not into the fight. Okay? Second variation of this is where I want to trap the knife. Okay? Where I trap the knife and be able to go for the kill again. Okay? That's why it's a V-shaped area. Now, third application is where you change from the inside of the knife, the live side to the dead side. Right, so that's kind of allow you to have a flexibility from the live side to the dead side. Now, variation of that would be high-low straight attack. Right? Remember, the movement is this. This is a low gate, but this is a high gate, which is the one I just did. Right? So as you see that the simple movements actually give you 4 applications with different concepts. Okay? So as you can see, section 1, the movement is pretty simple, but if you're understanding the setup of the knife, where's the shield, where's the weapon, the 4 different variation of fighting applications, then you can see the Batando is a whole set. It really prepares you for weapon fighting.